Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of The Brothers Genes with John and Jeremy, and sometimes actually Gene, our other brother. This is a love story. This is a love story, and it's a DNA story. And like all DNA stories, it has its pluses and its minuses. And we're going to go through that. And we're going to do a, warts and all kind of review of what we've been through the last 5 years. It's been 5 years that we've been on this journey. And we're going to start at the very beginning, actually, a little bit into it, not quite the very beginning, because we're going to start with my story. And Jeremy's story chronologically comes earlier, but my story is the reveal. So,
Yeah, let me add this, Johnny. I just want to let folks know that, not only is this healing for us as we tell the story in this format, because trust me, we've been telling the story a lot verbally, but it's also, that's right. And, but also, listen, Johnny and I both know that a lot of DNA stories do not end up being a love story. Unfortunately, a lot of folks get doors slammed in their faces. And you know what? We want this to be a healing event for anyone who's listening as well that is going through something similar. Whether you're the one who discovered the family you always dreamed of or the family that discovered another sibling. There's both a lot of drama and trauma in each side. And these past 5 years, all of us in this journey of our DNA story have done a lot of healing, and we want to let other folks know what that healing was in case it's helpful. We think it's helpful, and we want to hopefully guide anyone out there to their own DNA love story, warts and all. So I just wanted to add that. Johnny, please go for it.
Okay. We call this story Holy Fucking Fuckballs. It was January 16th, 2020. I was home, as was my youngest son, Wesley, who at the time was a senior in high school. He was 17 years old. We were both in the basement. I was in this very room. He was about 20 feet that way. A wall separates us, but the door was open. I was playing video games. My wife Darlene was out with some friends having dinner. And I was playing Diablo 4, I think, or 3, Diablo 3. Diablo 4 wasn't out yet. And I got bored. I got bored of playing video games, and I decided to check my emails. And in my emails was an email from Ancestry.com, which said I had a new hint about an ancestor. So I went to my family tree. I looked through the hint. The hint actually led me to add some great uncle to my tree. So I always like adding people to the tree. But then I happened to notice Ancestry has this thing called DNA through lines, which they put through your tree. So if people who have DNA show up on your tree, they can add them. And because my brother Gene had also submitted his DNA, we had 2 through lines going through the whole family. I happened to be in the paternal side of my family, and I noticed that there were now 3 through lines. I thought my sister, Amanda, had added her DNA to Ancestry, even though I know she had done 23andMe. But she was working on a movie about DNA at the time. It made sense to me, but I clicked on it anyway. And imagine my surprise when it had a picture of my brother, me, and then a third person, and it said half brother. And it was a picture of Jeremy's smiling face. I took more than a beat to process. I even think I went back and forward and refreshed the page just to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing. And then I said out loud, holy fucking fuckballs.
All right, let me stop you there. Tell me, or tell the audience, and this is what I'm going to do, because I can extract more. Besides the awesome exclamation you just said out loud, what are the feelings inside of you at that moment?
It was so complicated. First off, I'm not real good about processing my emotions internally. And this was so complicated. I had known that there had been infidelity incidents in the past with my father, so it was not that shocking, but it was shocking. I don't think I've literally felt shock the way I felt it that night and for the weeks to come. I've told Jeremy the story, but when we finally did talk, and anytime I retold the story for the first few weeks, I had to wrap myself up in blankets. I would shiver so much.
Why? Why?
Because it
Why?
was I was shocked. I was just still very just shocked by it all. And the shock kind of changed from the initial discovery to more, and we'll get into that more in the story.
Like a shock to the core, it sounds like
Yeah,
almost.
it was overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't process the emotions at the time. I mean, shock was the biggest one because
Okay.
and I've never been quite so blown away in my entire life, with maybe the exception of when I was 13 years old and the fire chief told me that the fire in my room started on my bed.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we can save that story for another time.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm looking at this and I say, holy fucking fuck balls, when I finally process it, which, yeah, I mean, took a refresh, probably 20 seconds before I fully processed what I was seeing. And I said, holy fucking fuck balls.
Screamed
And
it, right?
Wesley, what?
You screamed it, right?
I not screamed it, but I said it loud enough that Wesley heard it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what? And I said, I can't tell you. I can't tell you, which was sad because I needed at that moment to talk to somebody about it.
Mm-hmm.
And here was my thinking, now that I have discovered that I have a half brother. I'm not going to tell my sister because she already has a very strained relationship with my father. I'm not going to tell her right away. I'm going to tell my brother right away. I'm going to tell my wife when she's done with her friends. She goes out with her friends infrequently enough that I wanted to let her enjoy herself. So I called my brother, and I called my brother. I called my brother. I called my brother.
Johnny, you're doing amazing
and I
right
texted
now,
my
by the
brother,
way.
and I called my sister-in-law, and I texted them 911 to call me back.
Wow.
It still took them over 2 hours to get back to me. I still don't know what they were doing. Hopefully, well, never mind. I was going to be blue, but I don't need to work blue. So eventually Darlene did come home. I actually texted her and said, call me when you're on your way home, so I could talk to her while she was driving. But apparently I texted her kind of as she was getting in the car, and she just felt like she would be home soon enough. When she got home, I said, thank God, and hugged her. Thank God you're home. Thank God you're home. Thank God you're home. And she's like, what? And I go, here. And I hand her the iPad, and I should have a visual, but maybe next time. But it was the Ancestry thing that said, Gene, John, Jeremy, and it said brother, half-brother. And Darlene says, what am I looking at? What am I looking at? I couldn't tell her. I couldn't articulate it. And I was just like, just look at it, I knew she'd get it if she kept looking at it. She looks at it. I want to say, well, it felt like 20 minutes, probably 30, 45 seconds. She looked at it, and she looked up at me and she said, you have a half brother? And I screamed, I have a half brother, which of course, Wesley, listening at the door from downstairs, now knows I have a half brother.
I will edit that down, audience, because I'd love to scream, but it'll probably kill your ears.
It'll probably blow out your headphones. I apologize.
And Johnny, you're doing an amazing job. I love your pauses. I can hear the emotion in your voice. Just keep going the way you're going. It's perfect.
Almost like I have a degree in acting.
You would think.
You would think.
Go for it, Burrow.
So, yeah, I was just so glad. And so then we had this whole discussion, and I told her my thinking, which is my sister was doing this movie about a DNA journey. My brother and I had been doing family trees, talking to my father, encouraged by my father. So my thinking was, no one knew that this was going to be something out of the blue to the entire family. So I wanted to talk to Gene and decide what our next steps were. He, as I said, eventually called me back at 11 o'clock. So I said, oh, thank God. I said, I need to tell you something, and you need to sit down for this. And he's like, no, he didn't sit down. He was like, whatever. What is it? Just tell me. He was impatient. Oh my God. Gene, impatient? Any of us impatient? Come on. We all have ADHD, by the way. So untreated. Gene's, I think, is treated. So I said, I told him the little bit encapsulated. I was looking on Ancestry DNA, blah, blah, blah. And we have a half brother. Gene didn't say anything, but our sister-in-law, Sari, said, Roger, that's our father. So Gene said to me, so what do you want to do? And I said, I want to call Dan in the morning. Dan was our family advisor, mostly on, I can't hear you.
So wait, so that's all Gene's response was, is what do you want to do? He didn't go, holy shit balls, or
It
you're
was,
lying, or what?
well, Sari's Roger kind of gave a levity to the whole kind of thing
Okay. That's a
that
wonderful way to
hadn't
say it.
been there before. I mean, at that point, I wasn't upset. I didn't feel upset. I didn't feel betrayed. I just felt, I don't know, possibilities, actually. I
Oh,
really
that's
did
wonderful.
feel possibilities, I mean, I think I'd already looked you up, obviously. I'm like, he's a musician. Isn't that cool? And, I don't think I figured out, because I didn't go to LinkedIn, so I don't think I figured out you were at Broadcom. And even if you were at Broadcom, I wouldn't have any understanding of what you were doing. I think I said, I think he's in marketing or something. And actually, it was Amanda who found all of your stuff on Instagram. And that's when we realized that, oh, good, he's not a Republican.
Well, so let me stop you there, because we'll get into this at a later episode of, obviously, you're going to research as quickly as you can somebody who says they're your blood. I did it, obviously. I had 6 months to do it as I cyber stalked you and the rest of the family. I mean, what did Amanda or you find that reassured you that this was legit and not some scam? Because there are scams out there.
The legit thing was easy. I immediately went on to Google, before AI answers, Google, and I said, is there a way to fake Ancestry DNA results? And the answer was absolutely not. So if you have found some relative who has come out of the woodwork, that relative has come out of the woodwork. There's no faking it. And literally Amanda said, what are the chances? And I said 0. So that was it.
So do you remember what Amanda found that reassured her about
the
just
stuff you did for Thanksgiving in the city? And
my work on the streets in Baltimore.
On the streets.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I posted all of that and nothing stupid, but please continue.
So yes, going back. So I said, I think we should call Dan. And Gene said, I don't think so. I think we should talk to our sister and then talk to our father as the 3 of us. I said, okay. So in the morning, I texted Amanda and I said, Gene and I need to speak to you. When can you speak? And she's like, not before 5:30. And I'm like, all right, fine. I mean, I was chomping at the bit, obviously, but fine. She couldn't do it till 5:30, whatever. So, I went into work. At the time, I was the director of events at the Maryland Institute College of Art. God, I'm just, if I want to remain even slightly anonymous, I'm blowing it right and left.
It's okay. We're going to review this. I will say it, and I will, but just keep telling it the way you're telling it.
So I'm at MICA. I have a meeting that morning with the assistant director of admissions to go over. So we had a weekly standing meeting to go over upcoming admissions events. That spring semester, we always have a bunch. So we were going over them.
So this is the 17th, right? The January 17th, 20.
So
it's a Friday, the day
Friday
after.
Morning,
perfect.
About 9:30 in the morning, maybe 10. So my event coordinator, Emma Jo, and I were in the meeting. I have walked into the office and already told the story to my colleagues, my staff. There's 4 or 5 of them that were in the office at the time. I just gave them what I knew, which really took 5 minutes to tell. And then I'm having the meeting with Emma and Murray, Oliver Shalom, Murray, and I couldn't pay any attention to the meeting. I mean, I had asked Murray to repeat himself 2 times, and I said, I can't. I said, let me tell you what's going on with me. And he's like, yeah. He's like, we'll meet next week. We got plenty of time.
Yeah, let me add to that, because Johnny brings up a good point. And I want to say 2 points here. One, it is so overwhelming. It consumes you with news like this. Whether you get it late in life, early in life, to find blood or more blood is just all encompassing. And I will say this, as Johnny continues to tell his version of the beginning of his story in this, I still feel that tightness in my chest that I felt the day I found out.
Still getting shivers.
Yes. I mean, this is 5 years later, and I still, now that tightness is filled with love and hope and compassion, but that core feeling of just retelling the story is still very prevalent. And I want folks to know that it's normal, I mean, even 5 years later, this is one of the biggest things that can happen to folks out there. And it is real to feel this kind of, I'm not thinking of the right words at the moment, but you're not alone when you feel all these feelings you feel even 5 years later when you tell the story. So please continue, Johnny.
And I was telling it. I had I didn't think about how this reflected on my family. I didn't care. It wasn't a secret. It's a person.
Please go into that more, please, because people could care.
Well, I want to go into it more later.
Okay.
In the story. So I told Murray, Joe already knew. I go into another meeting again with Emma Joe, and we just blow off the meeting and just wind up talking. Jean, Emma, Joe, and I are having a meeting actually at a restaurant and eating our poke. And we still do that every few months. She's moved on to Hopkins, and I've moved on to I'm not sure what. And we were supposed to be going out to lunch in the next 2 weeks for poke. But you're going to edit all that out.
Yes, I am. No offense. I mean, we're just going to stick to
No,
our
it's
story.
not. It's not germane to the story.
Yeah. You're fine though. You're comfortable. So
having lunch with Emma Joe, Jean texts me and says, "I think you're right. I'm calling Dan." Literally, I'm like, "Wait, but let me call my brother." This
is less than 24 hours later, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is the morning. This is 12 hours. This is 13, 14, 15 hours later. Jean says, "I think you're right. I'm calling Dan. I want to call Gene. I want to text him. I want to say, what made you change your mind? Let me get on the right call with you, or whatever. But I'm in the middle of a restaurant and but then he calls not 5 minutes after his text. So I'm like, I got to pick it up. And the moment he called, I knew. He said, "Don't call Amanda. Don't say anything to Amanda." So Dad knows, Dad has known, and he's going to reach out to her.
How do you know this? How did he know this?
Because I don't know if Gene talked to my father or if Dan talked to my father and then related to Gene. I'm not sure.
Did you
I think Gene did talk to Dad. I think he did. And he said that Dad would be calling me later. And I said, all right, well, not till after 2. I said, because I had meetings all morning and then till 2, which I wound up blowing off. I was not overly shocked that he knew. I was not overly shocked, but I was still in shock. So my emotions weren't so I go back to the office. I think I canceled my 1 o'clock meeting. I did a little bit of work and then I just said, I can't, fuck it. I can't pay attention. Bye. I'm taking a half day. I don't think I cleared that with my bosses, but I never did. They didn't care. I worked so many freaking hours. They owe me so many hours. I could have taken off a whole week and it wouldn't have mattered. Director of events. Events. So I'm driving home and our father calls me in the car. Let me just say no. I say my father sometimes. I say our father sometimes. Jeremy, I think, prefers our father because it makes it very inclusive. But Gene and I, our entire life has referred to it as my father because his father is different from my father. So we always say my father. Gene and I never or rarely ever say our father before Jeremy.
Yeah.
Now we say our father more.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it's taken me a long time to be okay hearing it sometimes, but the hearing you say it and not be felt outside of the circle, I'm better with it now. But I will say the family, including all the siblings, do make an effort to say things to me that make me feel included, even if they're minor to them, but it means the world to me. You're going to hear so many examples around that of they want me to feel included and inclusive throughout this whole journey. So thank you, Johnny.
So he called and he said, it was very cut and dry. He's like, he said there was an infidelity event that resulted in a pregnancy. There was a paternity test. It was inconclusive, but paternity suit and then a paternity test, which was inconclusive. And we settled the suit. I'm assuming it included money for your mother and your education fund, which I have no idea how that was administered. I'm curious if you do ever find out. That could be a whole episode.
You would have a better way to find out than I would, but yes.
Yeah. So he said there was a suit. It was settled. He said, your mother knows, and she acted honorably throughout. That's all he would say. I said, okay, Dad, thanks for letting me know. He's like, do you have any questions? I said, I'm sure I will. I don't have any right now. I mean, I was in shock. And he's like, well, I hope your sister takes this as well as you do. And I said, okay. I mean, I did take it well at the time. It took a while to sink in before the anger really kind of followed.
Sounds like a similar phone call I had with him for the very first time. Very dry and to the point, like a business.
Yeah. And the anger, I will say, just kind of was twofold. The fact that a brother of mine was hidden away from me for 52 years, that made me very angry. And that thing that made me so angry, so angry that I actually stopped talking to our father for months, was that he knew and I discovered it. There's a little wiggle room in there that we'll get to probably at a later thing, but I was the one who discovered it. It still makes me shake. It still makes me cold when I think about it. And not because it was you and, hey, I have a new brother, whatever. It was because I was the one who discovered it. Why me? I mean, this has messed me up. I mean, look, it's been a conversation in therapy, and luckily it doesn't, I don't think it affects me as much when I'm not telling the story, but there's a lot of anger there.
But is it because you felt you should have been told from our father, like that was his responsibility? Or what is it about the why me? I just lost your video. There we go. All good.
I felt, yes, that I should never have discovered it. That this is something that should have been told to me.
Yeah. All right, John, let's stop because whatever you clicked on, I lost it sounds like I'm not using your microphone anymore.
My cable.
Okay. Yeah, but it's still not the, you may need to go into the settings.
The other.
Yeah. This is really good, by the way. I hear all the emotion in your voice.
Recording, but you can't switch mics. But it switched mics on me.
Did you say you pulled something out, or let me see if I can switch it?
It will get out back in there.
Must be you can't do it live kind of thing. Let me see.
You will pause it for a second.
I see a stop, but I don't see a pause.
Plug the other mic.
Yeah, because according to my settings, you're still talking through the Yeti, but you're not.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not letting you back to the Yeti.
All right. Why don't, again, this is just a dry run. This is us to iron out all the things that could happen. Good. There we go. Much better. Okay. But now your head is high up. You sound much better. Okay.
It doesn't actually say it's the Yeti. I can't tell.
It is. Trust me, you sound so much better.
Okay. You sound much better.
So we left off with why you and the fact that you weren't
Why
told.
me? Why me? That's what made me so angry. Why me? Oh, look at the mug you're drinking out of.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get to that.
We went to the Neon Museum together So, yeah, it was really, I mean, that's where a lot of the anger came from. Why wasn't I told this? Why did I have to discover this on my own? And that 20 minutes and 2 hours, 20 minutes before Darlene came home and the 2 hours before I got to talk to my brother about it were horrible. They were really, So, I mean, I'm sure you understand. Yeah. So isolating. So there's still anger there. I mean, I've dealt with it on the personal level. So I'm not sorry.
I'll tell good.
I've dealt with it on the personal level. So I'm not, taking it out on our father anymore. Although he knows that it's still something that very deeply affects me. But, So he tells me. Then my sister calls an hour later, maybe. And she starts cursing about our father, screaming she's never going to talk to him again, that she doesn't need this while she's pregnant, things like that. I can't remember.
Wait, how pregnant was she? January
Asher
of 2020?
This was January. She had just gotten back from
2 months, maybe?
China the month before. So she wasn't 2 months. No, she was definitely in her second trimester.
Okay.
Because Asher was born in
mid-July, early July. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, she was probably 3 to 4 months.
And like Johnny said, she just came back from China where she was filming a DNA story.
The DNA story.
We'll get to that ironic little tidbit as well.
Yeah. So we talked, Gina and I talked a couple of times, then the three of us talked. And I said, well, this was now Friday, probably 4 or 5 o'clock. I said, I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to send him a message through Ancestry. And my sister said, no, you can't do that. I said, we have to decide how we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. And I said, no, Amanda, this is an individual journey. I'm not I said, we can each decide what kind of relationship we're going to have with Jeremy. And you know, I'm going to reach out to him.
What do you think her reluctance was?
It might have been my mother, although
Mm.
she didn't know the depths of my mother's issues at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been.
Are you multitasking during this podcast?
I'm pulling up the messages so I can read it.
Oh, okay.
No, I
Nice.
just pulled it up.
Nice.
It might have been. Yeah, I think she wasn't sure. She wasn't sure that this was something she wanted to do.
Which is a normal emotion
Very, very
for
normal.
any DNA story like this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just said, whatever. So Amanda said, fine, if you're going to reach out, maybe we should just you can send something on behalf of all of us. And I said, okay, I'll put something together. I'll send it to you guys. You guys can let me know. I don't believe they had any edits, the message I sent them that I was going to send to you. I mean, if they did, it was minor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember any major. So this was
so
sent...
we're still on the 17th.
No, not what. Why does it say the 20th? I sent this to you on the 20th.
You did. So you took a couple days to write it and review it. So the conversations with you and Amanda and Jean about reaching out through Ancestry, that occurred on the 17th of January?
Yeah.
That same Friday you had a phone call with our father?
So some of it occurred Friday. I think it occurred all over the entire
weekend. Okay, all over the weekend. Perfect.
The entire weekend.
Which led to the Ancestry message I received on the 20th. So why don't you
Sunday
talk?
Yeah. So that was Sunday morning. So we spent Saturday kind of going over it. In addition, we reached out to my father and said, you have to tell our mother that we now know. But wait until next week, because she and my stepfather were enjoying their time in Florida, and my stepfather had been ill and he was having some good days. And so we just said, wait till she comes back from Florida, which would be Tuesday. So that was Saturday. I told him that. The other thing that happened Saturday night was Amanda also asked me to reach out to our father and ask him to reach out to Uncle Arnie, because Kathy, our cousin, was acting weird. And she thought maybe Kathy had seen it on Ancestry, which...
And at this time over the weekend, I forget what you said. Your mother had no idea still? Okay, got it.
Yeah, we knew. No. Well, my mother knew you existed, obviously.
Exactly, yeah.
But she did not know we had found this out. And we told my father to tell her when she gets back. So Saturday, I crafted this message I sent to you via Ancestry. January 20th, 2020. 10:32 a.m.
Wait, let me grab the tissues. Go ahead.
And of course, I just wiped it away. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Hello, Jeremy. I am John Lippitz, and I discovered on Thursday night that you are my brother. I have had conversations with my siblings, and while we are still processing this new information, I wanted to reach out to you individually and on behalf of my brother and sister, Jean and Amanda, to let you know that we are here and we are very grateful you did the Ancestry DNA. We are very close as siblings and we know it will be a process, but we hope to find our way through this together. Please feel free to respond, text, or call when you feel you are ready. My cell is. If you are going to call, blah.
Yeah, we'll leave that.
I'll also send you a Facebook friend request if you would like to start there. For whatever is to come, we send you warm thoughts and good wishes for 2020. Oops, 2020, that didn't work out. Not for anyone.
We'll get
Not
into
for anyone.
We'll
no
get
good
into
wishes.
How the pandemic affected this story.
Yeah. Just to parse that a little bit before we go to yours.
Mm-hmm.
When I read this, Jeremy usually interrupts at the point where I say, we discovered that you are my brother.
Yeah, I'll get to that. But can you tell the audience how it makes you feel today, or more importantly, how you felt when you were writing this? Why did you use certain words, Johnny? Because it's very important to someone like me who has finally found blood when there was never any.
Well, I very normally parse my text messages and any messages that is just words on a page. I spend a lot of time making sure that It can't be misinterpreted. I had a whole seminar at work about, face to face, you get this. And on video conference, you get this. And on the telephone call, you get this. And on the page, you get this, or in an email. And so they basically said, you don't get those cues. And email is the absolute worst. So I always parse my emails already, that anything that's charged. So this one, I probably worked on and off all day on Saturday. I don't think I ever considered saying that you are my half brother.
We'll get to that.
Thank you for that. Think I considered it. I mean, even if I did, like, for a moment think that I was going to type it in, I would be like, no, that's stupid. That's weird. What the hell's the difference? We're when I said we're still processing this information, that's more, so that, we were all kind of getting used to it. I mean, I was gung-ho. I was ready to just, say, give me a call. Let's chat. Whereas, everyone else was not quite galloping the same speed I was. There's a lot of speculation that it's because, Johnny always wanted a little brother. No, it's because, and my son Max would say the same thing. If there's family out there, we want to know them. We want to be a part of their life. So we're still processing this new information. That's because we were processing. We were grateful that you did the DNA, because otherwise this would have been kept a secret from us our entire lives. When I said we were, I know you kind of got I said we were very close as siblings. We weren't hanging out all together all the time, but we did talk a lot on the phone and whatnot. There's always strain lines and strains, especially. There's a lot of years between Gene and Amanda, and it makes it very difficult for them to communicate. But
you love each other.
Well, yeah, but we love each other.
Yeah.
No matter what. We know it'll be a process, but we hope to find our way through this together. I thought that was, whatever. And I just I wanted to give you my Facebook, because your Facebook was wide open, and I don't think mine was as wide open. So I just wanted you to be able to do a little bit of deep diving into my past. I figured if I got likes on the last 100 pictures going back all the way, it'd be perfectly fine. And for whatever to come, we send you warm thoughts and good wishes for 2020. Yeah, very sincerely. I sign email. I sign everything. Thanks, literally, thanks. How everyone's like, best, mine is thanks. No, very sincerely, because I was very sincere. So as I said, I sent this at 10:32 a.m.
Okay.
So at 12:13 p.m., which is not quite an hour and a half.
Just read the first few words, and I'm going to take the story from there.
John, sorry for the delayed response. Okay, now, here's what I want to know before we get into this, and to lead up to this. I've heard it, but I'm asking for our audience. You get this message in Ancestry. I don't know if you had an alert pop up or whatever, or you've been just checking every 10 minutes, just to see if there was a message to come up. But so tell us, you get this message.
So I'm sure I got a ping on my phone. So this was a good week after I turned my profile from private to public, because my profile was private for many, many weeks in the Ancestry for reasons that we'll get into. And so I know I was up in my office back in Ellicott City, Maryland. And, just like Johnny said, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't think. I couldn't eat. I was just waiting for an answer for one of the most important things I've ever done in my entire life, was to find my family, reach out to them, and ask them to love me. And I will say that I felt that love immediately in your message because of the words you choose, because you were very methodical about the words you used to be sincere as you signed it very sincerely. So, I'm sure I got it minutes after you sent it. And
Tammy thought someone had died, his wife.
So I can't describe to you. I'm sure I read it 17 times in my office, and I can't put into words the emotions I was feeling, because I've never had any experience with those kind of emotions. I've never had experience with knowing I had siblings, talking to these siblings, it was all a dream of mine. So I'm sure I read it 1,000 times. I reread every word, every fucking word. to understand your point of view and where your heart was. This is good shit, by the way. And so
Good
I went
story.
downstairs. Yeah. I think we should keep doing it like this. We take it day by day and detailing these days, because that's what's going to prolong our episodes. So yeah, I go downstairs to the basement where my wife of 25-ish years was working in her office. She was a part of everything that we'll get into the 6 months prior to this day. And I dropped to the floor in front of her and howled a indescribable cry of feeling accepted and feeling lineage and feeling a bit of identity. I can't
like
describe
every emotion coming out of you, every pore at once.
From a very deep, dark, even wounded space in your heart. So she thought someone died. And through my gibberish of talking through wailing, I picked up my phone and I said, they responded. And they used words like, we're very close as siblings, which is what I dreamed about, because I didn't want to meet them if they didn't talk to each other and they hated each other. I had this dream. I put this family on a pedestal for 50 years. So, all of that validated my dream. Still processing this information. I was happy it was a shock to them. I was happy that it wasn't, we got another family member. I wanted to feel important in their eyes immediately. They're very grateful, Tammy. They said they're very grateful that I did this. More validation. We're very close as siblings, and we know it will be a process, but we'll find our way through this together. The four of us, not the three of them, and I'm on the outside. This is together. He used these words that I've wanted to hear all my life. Warm wishes, thank goodness, good wishes, warm thoughts, very sincerely. These are words that are important to someone like me, who has never heard those words from family. So, I don't know, it was probably an hour and 45 minutes of me collapsing in front of Tammy and working through how I was going to respond. I mean, when you want a letter like this from your siblings every minute of every day for your entire life, I felt like my response to you took a lifetime to get back to you, But I had to be sure about my words. I had to be sure that I presented myself in a way that was accepting to you guys. Because as Johnny will tell, this was an intense situation, me coming out of this DNA closet. I came out very intensely to this family because every feeling, every vulnerable thought, my entire heart was on display from you from day one. There's no other way to do it than that. So this is how I responded. On January 20th, 2020 at 12:13 p.m. I have extensive notes, as Johnny does as well, of every day in this journey. John, sorry for the delayed response. I needed some time to collect my thoughts. I'm sure you, as well as Amanda and Jean, can completely understand how emotional this whole process has been. Empathies for all of us. They were very calculated. I don't like to use the word calculated, but they were very intentional words. How emotional. I didn't want them to think this was it was like, hey, I found some more siblings, add them to the list. This was my whole fucking life in front of me. And what I say and what I do could jeopardize or propel it in any different direction. And it was a gamble.
And just as a side note, and you'll be telling your story, this was a 6-month process for Jeremy.
I'm still breathing through it right now.
This is culmination of 6 months of him going back and forth and deciding whether or not what would happen if he reached out to family.
This was it. This was the point of no return. Thank you, Johnny, for that.
This was the Hail Mary pass.
Mm-hmm. And this is it right here. I want to start out with saying thank you in quotes. And if I could have bolded that and made it 1,000 size font, I would have. Your warm and gentle words not only overwhelmed me, but brought me a sense of peace and acceptance during a time of indescribable uncertainty. 5 years later, I still cry at that line.
Mm-hmm. I'm tearing up.
I hope there will be time soon we can tell our stories at greater length. I do recognize that this is a process and we're all navigating it at our own pace. Although the traumatized little child in me wanted to run to all of you and hug you and never let you go. I will say this.
Not written in there.
Yeah, I didn't write that in. Sorry. I will say this, though. The last few weeks have been a roller coaster of emotions for me as I turn my, again, not in there in the note, but as I turn my profile from private to public. But this event is something that I've dreamt about ever since I was a little child, and we'll get into what that dream actually was for me. Out of respect for Roger, I would like to have a planned phone call with him within the next couple of days. My number is blah. Thank you again, Jeremy. Now, listen, Johnny's going to say what his or the siblings' response was out of the phrase, out of respect for Roger. But I needed to be extremely calculated in how I did this. If I did something behind anyone's back, it could have been used against me. And I didn't want it to be that way. I wanted a love story to start the right way. And while this creates a lot of drama in the family, I didn't want to be the cause of any of that drama. So I was very, very worried about how to do it correctly. So Johnny, what was the response maybe from our sister?
Exactly. I more remember Darlene's response than Amanda's response. Jean's was just kind of flat.
As he normally is.
Darlene liked you from the get-go. Just from this letter, talking about the emotional process, warm and gentle words. The only issue she had with was out of respect for Roger. Both she and Amanda scoffed at that. They did not feel that he, especially in this circumstance where he abandoned his child, was there due respect that offered, or, I mean, not offered, but had to be, or didn't have to be offered at all. I think if you had said that another way, it probably would have gone over better. I understood kind of what you were getting at. But yeah, I mean, I read it. I didn't quite parse the words the same way you did. I mean, your quotation of thank you was, I want to start out by saying thank you. I thought you put it in quotes because you were saying thank you. Didn't realize you were emphasizing it. But, you know, I mean, the line, your warm and gentle words not overwhelmed me, but brought me a sense of peace and acceptance during a time of indescribable uncertainty. I mean, that's a beautiful turn of phrase.
Yeah.
It really, really just kind of encapsulated the whole thing. And I think that's where Darlene was like, oh,
I wanted to shed a little light on how much this meant to me without being, a fire hose of emotions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that line still hits me deeply.
And then apparently I responded right away, looking forward to hearing from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our last communication on an ancestry.
It was.
Yeah.
And we'll get into what that next communication looked like. We're going to leave a cliffhanger, Johnny, because that's what you need to do. And I think the cliffhanger, what I think we should do is like one episode is your side of the story, the next episode is my side, the next episode is your side, and we'll just take it through the timeline. Or Jean's side.
Yeah, we need to have our brother.
So, but this has been fabulous. There's no reason why we need to worry about how we're going to perform on this. It's from the heart. The cliffhanger I think should be, like that line said, out of respect for Roger, I would like to have a planned phone call with him within the next couple of days on the next episode of whatever we're going to title this podcast. I'm going to tell you all about what that phone call was like, how it affected me, even to this day, and what my side of the story was leading up to the ancestry message that Johnny got about having a half-brother connection.
And then the episode after that, you get to hear about my mother's reaction.
Yeah, we should also include Jean's reaction too. Like, you heard your side of it.
Yeah,
we'll plan it all out. We'll plan it all out. Yeah, I should let him listen to this and just see how he feels. We should let him listen to this, get his input, see how he feels. And I've heard him tell the story a similar way in his own words.
Wow. I have never heard him tell the story. And you want to know why I've never heard him tell the story? Because he always lets me tell it.
Well, there's something in there. That's beautiful.
It's interesting because both of my parents said, please keep this private.
Yeah.
Please keep this private.
Remember that for your
teaser.
Yeah.
It's a teaser.
Because it's and that's a whole episode in itself.
I should also say that I'm a terrible, terrible gossip, especially when it's about me. I have no secrets.
Yeah, we're leaving too many cliffhangers, but we'll get into it. But I have to tell the audience, no, Johnny, we're figuring it out. It's all good. This is what I love about what he just said. And those out there who, have a similar situation like me, no siblings, raised in a traumatic home, you have no idea what it's like to know that a characteristic of yours is the same characteristic in a sibling. Like, none of the brothers know how to keep secrets. We don't. I mean, that is just one of 1,000 things I love about even a poor quality in myself because, hey, I share it with my siblings, we'll get into the fact that we all have the same eyebrows and this and that, and our inflection in our voices are very similar. It means the world to me